I think we should just officially name Thursday, or rename it to Klein Vrydag.
Yeah.
It sounds better when you say it that way.
It really does. Well, every day is kind of feeling like a Klein Vrydag now, because schools are out, varsity out, colleges, all kind of institutions of higher learning are out. What impact is that having on the institutions themselves? We're about to find out right now.
A very good morning to you, Expresso family. We are coming to you live from our Johannesburg studios this morning. Now, we know that schools have been on shutdown, academic institutions have been on shutdown, but what exactly does this mean for the 2020 academic year? How will it impact the academic year and learners? And to help us answer some of those questions, I am joined this morning by Boston City Campus CEO Ari Katz, and he's going to be unpacking that angle for us. A very warm Expresso welcome to you, Ari.
Morning, thanks for inviting me.
Now, it must be a very tense time in the academic world with this coronavirus pandemic globally. Does this give an opportunity for other alternative methods of teaching and learning? And if so, what exactly are those?
Okay, so I agree with you. I think it's an extremely stressful time for everybody, and especially for learners who really don't know what the future holds. I know that they've spoken about institutions reopening after Easter, but we've seen globally that in fact, this is taking a lot longer than a couple of weeks to actually sort itself out. And of course, as you mentioned, there are lots of other opportunities available. As you know, we live in the 4-hour world, and there are many other opportunities for digital learning. I think the challenge really is that digital learning isn't only about putting lectures online. Digital learning and teaching and learning in general is a much broader experience where the content needs to be curated in such a manner that learners are able to interact with each other, learners are able to interact with educators, they can upload their assignments, they can do assessments online, and there's feedback and mentorship, etc. So teaching and learning really can still be such a rich experience if curated correctly and if geared up for the digital learning experience.
I mean, so this is what the conversation is about, or what's been the conversation around e-learning. That's exactly what you've just explained right now, right?
Yep.
So what about those learners who don't have access to, for example, telecoms at home, or they don't have access to a laptop at home to follow e-learning? What about them? What can they do to make sure that they stay afloat of their academics?
So I think it's a time for all South Africans to come together, and I would call upon the telecoms companies that this is a time to zero-rate data for education, for teaching and learning. And they can do that quite easily by creating channels specifically for teaching and learning content as opposed to non-teaching and learning content, if I can call it that. So I think it's a time for telecoms companies to pull together with education institutions and to actually come to the party and provide access to data to learners across the board.
And can e-learning take place from primary school right through to tertiary, or is it limited to a certain level of education?
I think it's really a function of how well the e-learning content and experience is. And as I said before, it's not just about a lecture. It's about a total experience of how you curate the experience of content, assignments, interaction, etc. And depending on how that is curated, then one can technically do it across the board. I mean, you asked earlier around what do students do if they don't have access. So, I mean, it's not only about having access from home. They can get access, for example, in the Boston environment, we have 45 centers where students can go in, provided they practice social distancing, sanitization, etc., and they sit far apart from each other, etc. But they can go to libraries. There are many other opportunities as well. But I think it's an opportunity for the telecoms and for South Africa to pull together and come to the party.
Ari, like I mentioned earlier on, it's a very tense time right now in the academic world, in the world in general, with the coronavirus pandemic. And being a student is already a very, hectic and tense position to be in. Now, this is adding a lot more pressure, especially now heading towards exam time mid-year. What tips do you have for students currently trying to readjust to new methods of learning now that the coronavirus has broken out in South Africa?
So I think it's important for students to explore multiple opportunities. So of course, besides textbooks, which is an obvious solution, it's time not to sit at home and waste your time, but actually to engage in the teaching and learning experience through the e-learning opportunity. And if your institution doesn't necessarily have it, there are many channels available. Say in the school area, for example, one can log on to things like Khan Academy, ivdigital.education. The Boston website has multiple opportunities through Boston Connect for home learning, etc. And Boston City Campus, as I said, we have our entire teaching and learning experience already in an online fashion. So our students should not be disadvantaged in any way whatsoever, provided they've got access to technology and they've got access to data.
Thank you very much, Ari Katz. Yeah. That is the CEO of Boston City Campus. And I think the most important message we can take away from this conversation is don't waste your time. Use that time very, very, very efficiently. You know, if you have access to the internet, make sure that you are using those online platforms to further your learning and stay afloat of your academics. That is all we have from Ari Katz this morning. It's been such an insightful conversation. Thank you very much for coming through. And we look forward to having you on Expresso in the near future, Ari.
Thank you.
For now, though, it is back to you guys in studio.